actually sweating in this jumper. Shout out to Tea by SP for the cute mug. I thought I would come on and do a little Q&A. I didn't know there's just something about them that I just like sticking them on in the background, doing my makeup, chilling. So I thought I would do one. These are going to be like super random. I'll try and answer like the most kind of interesting ones. First question. Where will you travel next after COVID? Me and my boyfriend Paul are actually going to be going to Poland in September for a week. So we actually booked that during lockdown. I think we had a few gins and we were just like, let's just do something exciting so we have something to look forward to. So yeah, we're going on the 1st of September. We're flying into Krakow for 4 days and then we're going to Warsaw for 3 days. So that's like the first international trip this year. We are going to do a road trip of the Wild Atlantic Way. We keep saying that we want to explore more of our own country. Okay, so this next one is basically like gap year advice. Can't decide whether to go to uni straight after school or take a year out and travel. I don't want to miss out. This is a really good question because I feel like when you're at school, it's just automatically like drummed into you that you just have to go to uni after doing A levels or if you're at college or whatever. I think traveling is so good because it just opens your mind. Obviously I always wanted to travel, but at the time it's like you're always waiting for that like moment where you feel ready to go, and I never wanted to go alone. I was always waiting for friends or like a partner to go and travel with, and I just felt like never really the right time. So whenever I graduated uni, once the summer had passed, it was like, right, what's the next thing? Like I didn't really feel like I was ready to just like go straight into a grad scheme or like get a career, and yeah, obviously wanted to go to Australia, and then the flights were booked and then that was it, and then I found myself going. So this was in November, I booked my flights and then I ended up going out in February. So it was a pretty quick turnaround and such a scary time. I remember like maybe 2 days before I was supposed to go, I just like packing my suitcase. I just remember having a complete and utter breakdown, like cried and was like, I'm not going. There's no way I can physically like get on a plane and travel like to the other side of the world on my own. Like I had never gone on a holiday on my own. Like this is my first solo trip. So scary, so out of my depth. And my mum was just like, look, go for a holiday. If you're back in 2 weeks, you're back in 2 weeks. You know, like your flight's paid for. You may as well go and have a bit of fun. I got on the plane. I remember having to take the journey in stages. It wasn't like I'm going to Australia today. It was, right, I'm getting on the bus from Belfast to Dublin. And then once I got to Dublin, it was like, right, I'm just getting the flight to London. And then when I was in London, it was like, I'm just getting a flight to Singapore. It sounds silly, but I was taking the journey like in chunks. So it was like I was just focusing on that set travel destination ahead, because it's so easy just to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do whenever I land in Australia, and where am I going to go? Like, you just don't do that. Like, it's so bad. Just focus on like getting from A to B. And I found that really helped me, and it sort of kept me calm. I had two suitcases. Don't ever go backpacking with a suitcase or 2 suitcases in my obviously I had planned to go over and live, so it was like I was kind of justifying. I remember going into the hostel and I couldn't obviously check in because it was only like 7 o'clock. Jet lagged, had been traveling for like 30 hours I think it was in total with all my layovers. That was whenever it hit me. It was like, what am I going to do? And I remember like crying on the phone to my mum in like the corner of the hostel, being like, I want to go home. I just thought to myself, right, like snap out of this bad headspace, get on a tour or do something today, like to be productive. So I remember the hostel was doing tours to the koala sanctuary, so I just booked myself onto that and was like, right, let's do this. And then I actually ended up meeting really lovely girls on the trip and actually became really close friends with one of them, who eventually came over to visit me in Perth, which was so lovely. But from then it was just like, as soon as I met girls and I just clicked with them, it was like I was fine. I think it was just the initial shock of being so far away from home on your own was so terrifying. But I always tell people, if I can do it, like anybody can do it. Like I'm a really shy person to start with, before you get to know me. Like going into like a hostel room with like loads of people, I'd be like oh my god, so terrifying, but like it forces you just to put yourself out of your comfort zone and just go up and introduce yourself to people, and everyone's like in the same boat. Like there's so many solo travelers now. We're all kind of on like the same playing field and we're all in the same position, so I think naturally everyone just makes a real effort to get to know everybody. It was so lovely as well, because whenever I was traveling the east coast of Australia, like you're always meeting people because everyone's obviously traveling the one direction, so like you're always like kind of like meeting people along the way, or like maybe if you saw someone in like a previous city, you're meeting them further up. And actually like so many of my really good friends now I've met through traveling, and I'm still like in contact with them to this day. Whoa, that was complete and utter word vomit. One country you're dying to travel to. Philippines. I think whenever I go on my next big backpacking trip, Philippines is definitely going to be probably like my number one spot, because I want to go and do all of my dive courses. The diving in the Philippines is like one of the best spots in the world, and it's also like one of the top spots to go and actually get your PADI. How easy is it to learn to edit videos? Editing is actually, for basic editing, it's pretty easy. If you have like a MacBook, iMovie is like kind of bog standard, although it always crashes for me on my laptop, so I don't use it. I actually use Adobe Final Cut Pro. Obviously because I studied media at university, I had to film and edit all my own stuff, so that's how I was able to pick it up. I'm not like the most advanced on it, like I can kind of do like the basic stuff. Everything's literally on YouTube. Like there's so much stuff on YouTube, like there's so many like tutorials on how to use cameras, how to edit. It's just practice. Even just go and shoot like the most random stuff and just try and like do like little cool techniques. Just practice, baby. Best full coverage foundation, and one which looks dewy. Probably definitely Illamasqua Skin Base. It's my favourite. Leaves your skin looking like a doll. So flawless, so smooth, and also gives you like a really nice like illuminating glow. I hate my face looking matte, hate matte foundations, so for me Illamasqua Skin Base can do no wrong. Plus there's so many, they've got a really good shade range. You can buy like a white foundation and then just mix it with like some colours, so if you're like me, that can be really really pale or really really tanned, just do a wee mixy mix and then you're good to go. Where all did you travel in Australia? So I travelled all of the east coast, so well basically from Sydney up until Cairns. That's where I travelled, and then I actually moved over to Perth over in Western Australia, and I lived there for about 6 months. It's really beachy, like coastal, beautiful hikes, beautiful big nature parks. So for me Perth was kind of more suited to what I wanted out of my like Australia experience. Now in saying that, I really wish I had went to Melbourne. Sydney I just found was a bit overwhelming. It was really really hectic, really really busy, and coming from a little small town, I just felt like Sydney just like swallowed me up. It was just mental. Do you tan naturally? Such beautiful skin. Thank you. Yeah, I do tan naturally. I'm quite lucky in that way. My mum and dad both take the sun really well, so even like as a child, whenever I would go on holidays, like I was so tan, like so tan. I'm a bit of a fake tan whore, so I love my fake tan. I just love to be tan all the time. I don't feel like I sit being pale, like whenever I am like completely milk bottle with like a white face, I just don't think it suits me, so like I feel like I have to tan all the time. What are your travel plans for next year? So at the minute, I'm hoping to go back to Perth next year in 2021. Would want to do a big massive road trip. So I want to like rent out a little camper van and do that for a couple of weeks. Also, we really love to go to the Philippines. Yeah, like I don't know, I haven't got really any set plans as of yet, but Perth and the Philippines are definitely a priority for 2021. Oh, Bali as well. Oh my god, me and Paul are really wanting to go to Bali ASAP. So whenever we can, we'll be there again. If you could only eat one thing / meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? Probably chili beef penny from Ramore. So north coast of me. But I also love salt and chili chicken. And I love bao buns as well. Oh my god, I don't know. Oh, that's really hard. I don't like questions like that. If you won a holiday for two, who would you choose and where are you going? I would have to go to Bali and bring Paul with me and show him around Bali, because That's the dream. How did you meet your boyfriend? So funny, such a funny story. Basically, we met at my Christmas party, I think it was 2 years ago, and his cousin, who is my really good friend, introduced us because he had been to Australia before me, and obviously I was going in the new year. So he was just like giving me really good advice, and it was just one of those things where like we just never saw each other after it. Yeah, so it was one of those things. It was like, you know, you always kind of keep in touch over Instagram. And then he got a really cool job, a content creation job in the Maldives. And it's actually even mad just saying this story because it's just so like, it just seems like it wasn't even real. So yeah, he got in touch and said that he was going to shoot a campaign in the Maldives, and obviously he needed some female faces, and I was the lucky girl that was chosen. So, and it just seemed to slot in so well with my travel plans because I was leaving Perth in October and they were going to be going in October, so I was like, this is actually meant to be. The rest is history. Kept in touch, came home, started dating, got me on lockdown, and that's that. My camera just cut out. So the question was, how did I get into Miss Northern Ireland? So I entered the competition in 2014. I was only a baby. Like I was only 17, I think, maybe at the time. Miss Northern Ireland was always something that I really wanted to do for so long. I entered a heat really last minute. Like I think I entered maybe the day before, and I won my heat. I was so shocked. I was like, whoa, this is really strange. And like Miss Northern Ireland was just such a prestigious thing in my head, and like whenever I thought about it, it was like there was no way I was ever going to be like competing against these girls, because like they were all so glam and like had like the most beautiful like dresses, and like I was the girl that would have like hid at the back. Even in the photos, like I'd always like just like, I don't know, just was so shy and like not forward like whatsoever. I just really enjoyed it. I took the experience for what it was. Sort of told myself that like whatever will be will be. On the night I got called as the People's Choice, which was like, I remember being called and I was like, oh, this is so weird. My family, like no harm, but like they didn't think I was going to win, and I think whenever I was called as the People's Choice, they were all like, she could actually win this thing. I think everyone was kind of like on edge. Got to the top 3, I still hadn't been called, and I was like, right, there's no way, like I haven't made it, like that's it. They just called out, I was number 1, and they just called out number 1, and I will never forget that feeling. Like it felt like my whole body had just like turned to concrete, and I just remember being like pulled from like left to right, and like all of a sudden I was just like standing on the stage with like the sash and the crown and like the flowers, and had to do a speech, and I was just like, oh my god, help me, I don't know what I'm doing. Like a deer in headlights, like, is the only way I can describe it. It was so crazy. And it's mad to think that like my whole life just changed overnight. I remember my phone like broke because it was just going mental, and then the next morning like having to get up super early, and we did like a full media day, so it was like press call, telephone interviews, radio interviews, and it was so scary like going into like these big radio stations in Northern Ireland and like having to talk on like live radio, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so scary. And like I was supposed to be in college like the next day, and I remember like messaging my tutors being like, I'm not gonna be in for like a few days, like sorry. And I'm pretty sure I had a shift in I worked in Topshop at the time, and I'm pretty sure I had a shift the next day. So the whole thing was a bit mad. It kind of gave me that little platform to kind of go forward and do something cool. That was my missing out experience. I love going back every year. I'm always involved every year. I always, whether it be like judging the heats, going up over the weekend and helping the girls out. It's so weird as well, because obviously whenever I go back to like, we have boot camp days, so like I remember the first year I ever had to like, I had to give a talk and do like a catwalk masterclass. And I was like, these girls are like looking at me as if like I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, I'm like the CEO of winging shit, like literally. I don't know, I remember just like sitting on like a panel and like just like word vomiting at these girls, and they're all just like looking at me being like, and I'm like, I don't know, just do you. I always say, if anyone who is considering entering, give it a go. It's actually just such a fun time, like even the weekend, like just being up, like staying in the Europa, being around like all the girls and stuff. It's just such good crack. I love being involved every year wherever I can, so that's that. Do you see yourself living in Northern Ireland forever? Good question. I would never say never. Like, I love Northern Ireland, like love it so much, and obviously my family's here, my friends are here. So I probably couldn't really see myself living like long term away, but again, like if an amazing job opportunity like came my way, or if like my job meant that I could travel the world, then yes, I would move. Until that time comes, I don't know. Like, you always think the grass is greener. Like, whenever I was in Australia, I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to come home. And then whenever I came home, I was like, I can't wait to get away again. We'll see where life takes me. I feel like that's kind of like all the like the semi-interesting questions. I just like Q&As. Just thought I would do one. Come on, chat, nonsense as always. That's all I really have to say today. I don't want to keep going on and melt everybody out. That's me. I'm going to sign off now. And I will see you in my next video. Bye! My brows are awful. Look how bad my brows are. Me. Oh my days, why is it still going? That was so long. So the next question, let me stop saying so. Sorry, I just had a squashy.